Okay, in this video, this is part 3 of our two-player Pong program, and we're going to do some game state stuff here. Okay, I want my game to have 2 states. I want it to be either paused or I want it to be playing. And I'm going to allow the user, player 1, is going to be the only one I'm going to allow to change the state. And so I need an integer variable called game state. And then I'm going to have some integer constants. And let's do 0 and 1 for paused and playing, and those are the only 2 values I'm going to put into my game state variable. Okay, now at the beginning here, I want my game state to be paused. Okay, and what that means is that down here I'm not going to move the ball, I'm not going to move the paddles. Now you can decide whether you want to allow the player to move the paddle when the game is paused or not, but definitely we don't want the ball to move. So actually I think I'll just put the whole thing in here. So I'm going to need one big if statement. If game state equals playing, then I want to do all of this stuff. Okay. Otherwise, I don't. Okay. So, this is only going to happen if I'm playing. I'm going to start out in the pause state. If I click on this and start running the program, the ball should not move. I can push up and down on the paddle buttons here on the thumbstick, and absolutely nothing happens. Okay. So, I'm in the pause state. I need a way of getting out of the pause state. And the way I need to get out of the pause state is I need to look at the paddle. So this instruction here should probably be outside of the if statement, because I need to check the paddle regardless of the state that I'm in. Now paddle 2 is only going to get responded to while I'm in the playing state, so I can leave that in there, although it probably doesn't make a whole lot of difference. You can read it up here as long as you don't respond to it. And if you wanted to, be consistent, I guess maybe you'd put this up here as well and read them both at the same time. As a matter of fact, I think that's what I'll do. I'll cut it out and I will paste it in, and then just put a blank line here. Okay. Now, I want to check on every tick of the clock to see if they want to switch states. So, if pad1 dot, and we're going to use the start button. It's part of the buttons collection. Dot start equals button state dot pressed, then what state do I go to? Game state equals playing. Okay, and I'm going to allow them to pause the game as well, but that's going to be by pushing the back button. So if pad1 dot buttons dot back, whoops, then game state equals pause. Okay. And those are things that need to be tested for all of the time, because those are the things that let us change states. Okay. So and I'm just going to put a little bit more blank space in here just so it's easier for somebody who's reading the program to find the different parts here. And now I'm going to run the program, and it should start out in the pause state, but I should be able to push the start button and move it into the playing state. So I'm going to push the start button right now, and I'm going to push the back button right now, and it stopped the whole program. Why did it stop the whole program? Because of this default instruction that's in here from XNA. That's part of our program shell. They always put that in, and we're going to delete that, and we may as well delete the comment that goes with it then. And now let's try to run it again. And we're going to start out in the pause state. I'm going to push the start button now. And I haven't allowed for more than one point to be played, so I kind of blew it there. So let's try it again. And I'll push the start button. This time I'll try to hit the ball with the paddle. Okay, start, and now the back button pauses. And start again, and back button pauses. Okay, so we can play and pause anytime we want to by just hitting start and back. So that takes care of my game states. And the other thing I want to do in here is I want to obviously keep score. So I need a couple of variables here. Int player 1 score, comma player 2 score, and those should be initialized down here and initialized as well. And we'll just keep adding on here. Player 1 score equals 0, and at the beginning player 2 score also equals 0. Okay, and then we have to figure out down below here, while they're playing, it's only going to be while we're in the playing state, so we're going to add some more code down here, and we're going to update the score. And I have to check to see if one of the players has scored or not. And let's figure out how player 1 scores. Okay, player 1 scores if the ball gets past the paddle for paddle 2. Okay, so and there's actually more than one way to look at this. You can say, well, if any part of the ball gets past the paddle, or does the entire ball have to get past the paddle? So you've got several choices here, and what we're going to do is we're just going to do the easy one and see if it's gone off the screen. So if ball rectangle dot x, if the upper left hand corner of the ball is greater than or equal to the right edge of the screen, then it's gone off the screen, and player 1 gets a point. Player 1 score plus plus. Okay. And on the other side, if ball rectangle dot x is less than or equal to screen dot left, then player 2 score plus plus. Okay. Now, it doesn't do any good to compute the scores if we're not displaying them. So let's go add a font, and that's considered a new item. So I want a sprite font, and we're just going to call it font, and we're going to add that. And again, we're going to need a variable for it now, and anytime you need a we'll go with the default here, we'll just close that, and let's go up to the top. Okay, so I need a sprite font, and I'll call it font, and I also need a place to display the scores. So I'm going to need a vector. Remember, if you want to draw a font on the screen, you need to tell where it is. So vector 2 equals player 1 score vector and player 2 score vector. Okay, and now down here again, just to get something working, we will do player 1 score vector dot x equals 0, and we'll do player 1 score vector dot y equals 0, and so player 1 score will appear in the top left. And let's run the program now, and I'm going to try to score a point with player 1 here. Okay, so I'll just let the ball go, and I didn't draw it, did I? Let's go down here, and I'm not going to see much if I don't draw it. So and I also didn't load the content. So font equals content dot load sprite font, and then we need to draw a string down here, and I need the font, which we just called font. I need the text, which is the player 1 score. And I'm going to draw it in the player 1 score vector. And color white. Okay. And I think I'm going to get an error here. And the error I think has to do with this. And now, if one of your parameter types is wrong, you get this weird error message. It says the best overloaded. I'm looking at the bottom part of the error message. The best overloaded method is blah blah blah. And what that always means is that you either have the wrong number of arguments or you have the wrong type of argument in here somewhere. Now, this player score is supposed to be a string, and player score is an int. So what we have to do here is do toString. And that should get rid of the error for us. Okay, so now let's run it. And you're always going to have to do that anytime you want to display a number on the screen. You have to convert it into a string before you can use drawString. Okay, and I got score 0 up there now. And I'm going to press the start button. And I lucked out there. Oh, check that out. It is scoring forever. So how can we fix that? The problem is that right here we're checking to see if it's gone off the right edge of the screen, and if it has, we increase the score. Well, a 60th of a second later, it's still gone off the screen, and so we're just continue to add on and on and on and on. So what else do we want to do when it goes off the edge of the screen besides update the score? Well, we probably want to go back into the pause state. So we want to do more than one thing here. So game state equals paused, but then we need to reposition the ball back in the middle of the screen. Okay, so we need to let me see, set the ball rectangle's coordinates. X is going to be the middle of the screen, which is going to be screen dot left plus screen dot width divided by 2, just the width divided by 2, and the ball rectangle dot y is going to be a random number. And remember what we did up above, we want it somewhere between the screen top and screen bottom. Okay, and now let's see if that'll keep our score from going wild when player 1 scores a point. Okay, I'm going to press start, and I'm going to let that go off the screen. Okay, he scores 1. We go to the pause state. I reposition the ball, and if I push start again, now he scored 2. Push start again, now he scored 3, and so on. So it looks like it's working on that side, and then we would have to do basically the same thing over here. Take these same 3 lines, put them down here, but because they're part of the if statement, make sure to put your curly brackets in, otherwise it's going to be doing that all of the time. And we're not drawing out his score anyplace though, so sprite batch dot draw string. And I didn't do my caps there, so that's going to be an error. Should have let the computer do the typing for me. Okay. Now everything is fine there, except we haven't decided where we're going to put player 2 score. And so let's go up to initialize here, and we need to set player 2 scores vector.x equal to, and where are we going to put it? Well, I don't know exactly where to put it, but if I put it around 700, I should be okay. And if I do player 2 score vector.y equals 0, that should work. So now we should be able to run the program. And now I'm going to let player 2 do some scoring. Okay, he scored 1. Scored 2. Now it's like player 1 score. 2-1. Okay. So it looks like my score stuff is working. And let's stop the video there. That's about 15 minutes. And we'll talk about it a little bit more in a fourth video.